Wars usually bring to mind battles between nations, soldiers in trenches, and grand strategies. But what if I told you that one of history's most peculiar wars was fought between humans and birds? That's right, the Great Emu War of Australia is one of the most bizarre military operations ever undertaken, where Australian soldiers took on emus in a battle that proved just how resourceful nature can be. How did it all go so wrong? Let's take a closer look at this quirky chapter in history. The year was 1932, and Australia was still reeling from the effects of World War I and the Great Depression. In Western Australia, the situation was particularly dire for farmers, who were struggling to make ends meet. To make matters worse, an enormous migration of emus, over 20,000 strong, descended upon the farmlands, seeking food and water after their breeding season. These large, flightless birds wreaked havoc on the wheat crops, trampling fields and damaging fences in their wake. The farmers, already facing economic ruin, were desperate for a solution. The Australian government, eager to assist the farmers, decided to take drastic action. They sent a small military force, led by Major G.P.W. Meredith, armed with machine guns, to deal with the emu invasion. The plan was straightforward: use military-grade weaponry to cull the emu population and protect the crops. However, the operation quickly turned into a comedy of errors. Despite their superior firepower, the soldiers found the emus to be surprisingly difficult to target. The birds were highly mobile, scattering into smaller groups whenever the soldiers approached, and their speed and agility made them hard to hit. In one notable encounter, the soldiers ambushed a group of about 1,000 emus, but their machine guns jammed, and only a few birds were killed. The emus simply outran the soldiers and disappeared into the scrub. The war dragged on for weeks, with the soldiers managing to kill only a fraction of the emu population. The emus, it turned out, were incredibly resilient and seemed to outmaneuver the soldiers at every turn. Major Meredith later remarked on the birds' tenacity, saying, "If we had a military division with the bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world." Eventually, the government conceded defeat, withdrawing the troops and leaving the farmers to fend for themselves. The emus had won, and the Great Emu War became a laughingstock in the press, symbolizing the futility of human efforts against nature. The Great Emu War is a reminder that, despite our best-laid plans, nature often has the last word. It also makes us think. How often do we underestimate the challenges posed by the natural world, and what other battles have we fought in vain? While the Emu War may be seen as a humorous episode today, it also highlights the unpredictable outcomes of human intervention. And let's be honest, who would have thought that emus would prove to be such formidable foes? Imagine a world where the rich and powerful dabbled in dark arts, where poisonings, black masses, and secret rituals took place behind closed doors. This isn't the plot of a horror movie. This was the reality of Louis XIV's France. The affair of the poisons rocked the French court and revealed a hidden world of intrigue and corruption. So, what exactly happened? And why did it cause such a stir? The affair of the poisons began to unfold in the late 1670s, a period marked by political intrigue and paranoia. At the heart of the scandal were a series of poisonings among the French aristocracy, raising suspicions and fears of a widespread conspiracy. But as investigators dug deeper, they uncovered a web of criminal activities that went far beyond mere poisonings. The scandal revolved around the so-called poisoners, individuals who supplied lethal concoctions to the rich and powerful. One of the most notorious figures was Catherine Monvoisin, known as La Voisine, a fortune teller and healer who was deeply involved in the darker aspects of the Parisian underworld. La Voisine was accused of providing poisons to numerous clients, including members of the nobility, and of conducting black masses, rituals where she claimed to summon demonic forces to grant her clients' wishes. But La Voisine wasn't the only one involved. The scandal implicated many others, including midwives, alchemists, and even priests who were accused of performing these sinister rites. The affair took a more personal turn when suspicions fell on Madame de Montespan, the king's longtime mistress. It was alleged that she had sought the services of La Voisin to retain the king's affection through love potions and possibly to eliminate her rivals. These allegations were never proven, but they cast a shadow over the royal court and added to the scandal's explosive nature. As the investigation continued, hundreds of people were arrested, and the extent of the corruption within the aristocracy became apparent. Trials were held, and many of the accused were executed, including La Voisin, who was burned at the stake in 1680. The affair not only exposed the dark side of the French court, but also highlighted the lengths to which people would go to gain power, wealth, and influence. The affair of the poisons left a lasting mark on French history, serving as a grim reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the corrupting influence of power. But it also prompts us to consider, how much do we really know about the people in power, and what secrets might they be hiding? The intrigue and mystery surrounding the affair of the poisons continue to captivate historians and remind us that sometimes truth is stranger and more terrifying than fiction. Picture this: two children emerge from the woods, their skin an unusual green, speaking a language no one has ever heard. It sounds like something out of a fairy tale, but this is the story of the Green Children of Woolpit, an enigmatic event that has puzzled historians and sparked debates for centuries. What could explain this strange occurrence, and could it be that this tale is more than just folklore? The story of the Green Children dates back to the 12th century in the small English village of Woolpit, Suffolk. One day, villagers discovered a boy and a girl near one of their wolf pits, a common trapping method in those days. What immediately struck the villagers was the children's green skin. They wore unfamiliar clothing, spoke an incomprehensible language, and were visibly distressed. The local lord, Sir Richard de Calne, took them in and attempted to communicate with them, but it took some time before they began to understand and speak English. At first, the children refused all food except raw beans, which they devoured ravenously. Over time, they adapted to other foods, and their skin gradually lost its greenish hue. When they could finally communicate, the children shared an astonishing tale. They claimed to come from a place called St. Martin's Land, a mysterious subterranean world where everything was green and there was no sun, only a perpetual twilight. They said they were herding their father's cattle when they heard a loud noise and suddenly found themselves in Woolpit. The boy, unfortunately, fell ill and died shortly after their discovery. The girl, however, survived and eventually integrated into English society. She was baptized, learned the language, and even married a man from King's Lynn. Despite her assimilation, the mystery of their origins was never solved. Many theories have been proposed over the centuries to explain the Green Children of Woolpit. Some suggest they were Flemish immigrants, possibly orphaned during a period of unrest and suffering from chlorosis, a condition that can cause a greenish tint to the skin due to poor diet. Others believe the story is allegorical, perhaps representing a displaced or persecuted group. And then there are those who argue that the tale is rooted in folklore, with elements of fantasy woven into the narrative to explain the children's otherworldly appearance. The Green Children of Woolpit remain one of history's great enigmas, a blend of fact, legend, and mystery that continues to fascinate. But what do you think? Was this just a simple case of mistaken identity, or could there be something more to this tale? The story invites us to consider how much we still don't understand about our own history and how the lines between reality and myth can sometimes blur in the most unexpected ways.